Okay, here's question 25. This type of question is really popular in your foundation exam, right? It's actually popular in the higher paper as well. The question part A says expand. That means to multiply out the brackets. Part B says to factorize, which is the opposite, so that means put it into brackets. And part C, we'll get to that one in a bit. That's slightly different, but let's work through this. Expand means multiply out. That means everything outside the bracket, or the number outside the brackets, you times everything inside the brackets by it. So I'm going to do 3 times 2y. 3 times 2y is 6y. 3 times 5, there's a minus sign in between them, so I'll put that down, and 3 times 5 is 15. And that's it. Right, so 3 times 2y is 6y, 3 times 5 is 15, and so my final answer is going to be 6y minus 15, because there's a minus sign in between them. I'm timesing by 3, which is a positive number. Going on to part B. Factorize means to put it into brackets. So before I actually do this, I'm going to rewrite this slightly. The question is 8x squared plus 4xy. X squared means x times x, right? X times x is x squared plus 4xy. Now when I factorize, I'm going to put that into brackets, but what I want outside the brackets is whatever could go into both of these two terms. What's the biggest number that can go into 8 and 4? Well, the biggest number that can go into 8 and 4 is 4. And what's common in terms of the algebra in both terms? So I have xx and xy, but they both have an x in common. Now, I need to figure out what's going to go inside the brackets. So 4x times what is going to give me 8x squared. Break it up by the number and break it up by the letter. 4 times what is 8, 4 times 2 is 8. X times what will give me x squared. X times x is x squared. So 4x times 2x is 8x squared. So the first part I've done. There's plus, and then I need to decide what 4x will times by to give me 4xy. 4x times is y to give me 4xy, and that's my answer there, completely there. Check it again, just as I did. 4x times 2x is 8x squared. 4x times y is 4xy. Make sure you know both of these, expand and factorize. Both of these really popular in both your foundation and your higher papers. The next part of the question, part C, says make h the subject of the formula. So what they want to do there is they want you to rearrange. Subject to the formula means rearrange this so that its h is equal to. And they've given you a hint to that down here in the answer, right? In the answer it has h is equal to, right? So there's a hint that you need to rearrange it like that. The best way to do this is to use a flow diagram. So start off with, you've got t, and that is equal to okay, don't start off with t. You're going to start off with h because it asks you to make h the subject of the formula. So you're going to start off by looking at what happens to the h there. Right? What you want to do is start off with h and think about everything that's happening to h. h is being times by g, and then it's all being divided by 10, and that gives you your result t. That's equal to t. So all I've done there is read that equation, but looking at it from h. I'm timesing by g, and then dividing by 10, and then that gives me t. What I need to do now is to work backwards, right? Doing the reverse operation each time. So starting off with t, I need to do the opposite of dividing by 10, which is times by 10. And then the opposite of timesing by G, which is divide by G. So T times 10, that's 10T. 10T divided by G, it's going to be exactly that, 10T divided by G. That is pretty much my answer. H is 10T divided by G. So work through it in a systematic way. Don't do what I did. I didn't read the question properly to begin with. Read it, think about what the question is asking you, and with these, always start with the thing that you want to rearrange, or you want to make the subject to the formula. And in this case it's H, so I started off by doing H times by G divided by 10, that gives me T, and then work backwards. Work backwards, T times by 10, divide by G, so T times it by 10, and divide it all by G. There it is. Bit of a harder one, this last part, part C. However, it is pretty straightforward if you become familiar with it, and it's pretty straightforward marks to get. Make sure you do get them.